Now I'm in the subscription database. And so now we're going to see how it's different. And I'll try searching for Monongahela again. And this time I'll also talk about these cards that you see up here and why I think they're so important. So now you can see, this Monongahela is in the database ships.io. It takes us a link to that resource to show us a bit about it. So this is a modern day vessel. The database, people ask me how far back are the vessels that you have in here. And the truth is, the database covers any named vessel that is in a resource that is English, in English. There are a couple of few other things in there, but it's almost completely English language content. So if you have a book, when I find a book in the library that where I work about ships in the Russian Navy, as long as the book is in English, I'll add all that content here. So I used to say that it covers everything from the Solomenia, the Athenian ship of state during the age of Socrates, to the Costa Concordia and anything in between. I guess I should update that to the Ever Given or whatever the most recent maritime disaster was. But it really covers any vessel over time. The strongest focus is in Anglo-American 19th, 20th century vessels. I'm always working to go beyond that whenever I possibly can, and I'm always looking for suggestions of resources to add. Right now, there's some 1,220 resources in the database. So it's always growing. We're always adding content to it. And then I want to go back here. So it's a lot of different resources that are in this database. I want to show folks some. So now you can see that there are all these entries. So there's Monongahelas that are mentioned in Sea Chest, which is the journal, the magazine of the Puget Sound Maritime Historical Society. And there are a lot of mentions of it there. Now, what happens here, like this Morrison, everybody knows that Elliot Morrison was one of the great maritime historians of the U.S., right? Was at Harvard for many years in their oceanography maritime teaching position. I mean, you may not know that, and that's totally fine. That's what I'm here for. He wrote this history of the United States naval operations in World War II. He was actually in World War II. He was collecting information during the war in theaters, but this is a multi-volume set. It's got hundreds and thousands, many thousands of vessels mentioned in there. Also, actually, that index has got many, many thousands of individuals mentioned in there. So if you have an ancestor who had some level of authority during World War II, you might want, especially in the Navy, you might want to take a look at that particular title in a library near you. But this index doesn't say much beyond just the name of the vessel. When I scroll down a bunch more, I find a lot more information about specific vessels. So Monongahela, a sailing vessel from Mainsail Hall, which is the scholarly journal published by the San Diego Maritime Museum. You'll find all kinds of other things in here. There are also lots of mistakes. There's when names are put in incorrectly. This was not sure where the Monongahela. I've corrected them. So we've all brought them together so you can still find them. Here's Monongahela, a ship built in 1828. This was information about a specific voyage, a specific whaling voyage out of New Bedford. And that's what we can learn a bit about it. And in fact, here you can, we can then go in and find the folks who are on board. We can see the crew list for the whalers who are on board this particular vessel. So I just was clicking, okay, here we go. Here we see Pliny Van Buren on that particular 1850 to 1853 voyage. Remember, these voyages were years long. They were really something. So if you found an ancestor in here and you're like, wow, let me see if anybody has a logbook from this particular voyage, Mystic Seaport, New Bedford Whaling Museums, those are places to go to find out if anybody holds a logbook for that particular voyage. That would really be something. But as I've noted, there are a lot of different vessels with the name Monongahela. So how do you separate them? How do you keep track of the different ones? We've been doing that. We've been doing it by hand, and I'll tell you, it's a lot of work. I'll switch to a different one just so we can see some other things. WASP. There have been, I think, 8 or 9 or 10 different vessels in the U.S. Navy named the USS Wasp. And there's a couple of, I believe, an HMS Wasp as well, a couple of HMS Wasps. So what we have done is we've gone through the database and we've said, oh, here's a citation. This is an 1898 steam gunboat. And we know then that we are talking about this 1898 armed yacht called the USS Wasp. We're using Wikidata information. This is a Wikidata Q identifier here. I won't go into that too much, but just to say that this is a totally open, very common identifier that we use here to bring these together. And if there is no record for a particular vessel in Wikidata, we can still make a connection here. We just create our own unique identifier that we'll basically use until Wikidata has an identifier and we know about it. So if I take a look at this WASP, here's the Essex class aircraft carrier, CV-18. And you say, well, wait a minute, it's got a Oriskany. But what we can do now is we can combine citations that have different names for the same vessel. This was Oriskany before it was going to be launched, I believe. And so they changed the name at the time that they actually launched it. If I remember correctly, and I may not, I think there was a WASP that was lost a little bit earlier in the war. This was going to be the Oriskany, but after that one was lost, they said we're going to name this aircraft carrier after the prior one. So we brought all these together as much as we can. Here is WASP, commissioned 1943. Paul Fontenoy's aircraft carrier. Paul Fontenoy is an author of a lot of really good books in maritime history. And so we can take a look a little bit closer. We can find this in a library. This will take you to WorldCat again. It will say, oh, here's the book, and here are the libraries near you. There's again, the stupid featured versus all libraries, but what it says is that this university up the hill has got a copy of it, and then Wells College Library's got a copy, Syracuse, etc. You can just change your own your location to whatever works for you as well.